If you've been a fan of rock or pop music in the 21st century, then you've definitely heard of the song Absolutely Story of a Girl. It's a type of track that can get stuck in your head for days, a quintessential earworm.
This is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world.
The song is over 2 decades old, and it was the only hit ever written by the band 9 Days. Today, because you guys requested it, we're going to take a look at the history of the group, the story behind the song, and whatever happened to 9 Days. Before 9 Days, guitarists and songwriters John Hampson and Brian Desveaux had played together since the age of 18, dating back to 1991. Some press outlets described one of their early bands as being a metal cover group named Wonderama from Suffolk County in New York. The members themselves in an interview stated that their music was more in line with Skid Row. According to their New York Times profile, many venues in Long Island's fickle music scene only wanted bands to play cover tunes instead of originals, so Manhattan was far more receptive to the band's original tunes. The two musicians opted to go also in a folksier and alternative rock direction, writing about relationships and heartbreak, with Desveaux telling the Times, "Some of us struggled in the cover band scene. John and I got tired of the whole metal and heavy guitar riff band we were in, and in 1993, we took a year off and sat in an apartment in Deer Park and wrote a lot of music with big harmonies. We were greatly influenced by Dylan, Springsteen, and Neil Young. We got back to songs. We wanted to get back to our own roots, which was the 80s and 90s style rock." The pair soon linked up with bassist Nick Dimichino, as well as percussionist Vincent Tattanelli, who was in their previous cover band, as well as keyboardist Jeremy Dean, to form 9 Days. They derived their band's name for the amount of time it took to record their debut record, a body of work that they named quite plainly Something to Listen To, that saw a 1995 release. In a separate interview, Desveaux revealed in an online chat that during this time, him and Hampson were writing songs. They had a tune called 9 Days of Rain, and for short, they referred to it as 9 Days. They also recorded this song on the 9th and final day of the recording sessions. 9 Days recorded 2 more independent albums over the next half decade, Monday Songs in 1996 and 3 in 1998. It was by the group's second release that their songs started to get some attention locally, winning several radio Battle of the Bands competitions, including WBAB's Homegrown Talent Search and WLIR's Best Unsigned Band Contest. They also won some studio time as a result of some of these contests, and they used it to record their third record, aptly titled 3. 9 Days were chasing the dream of every regional act, the quest to land a major recording deal. But there were 2 things that prevented them from getting signed. Desveaux remarked, "A lot of the companies didn't get the 2 lead singer thing quite as much as we did. When John and I started 9 Days, we were background singers in other bands beforehand, and we decided we were going to write our own songs and sing our own songs like Lennon and McCartney." Desveaux added that while labels liked their first 3 records, they didn't hear a smash hit. The band at one point were rejected by every single label at least twice. Desveaux added to the New York Times, "We were ready. We were raring to get something done."
They took their best 4 songs and got in touch with guitarist Pat Thrall.
But it wasn't until the band recorded another 3-song demo that they finally got the attention of labels, thanks to, as you probably guessed it, a song called Absolutely Story of a Girl.
How many days in the year she woke up with hope, but she only found tears, and I can be so insincere.
The band soon signed with Sony's 550 Music in February of '99. The lyrics of the song were based on an argument that Hampson had with his then-girlfriend, who later became his wife. Hampson's girlfriend basically laid down an ultimatum to tell him that if they weren't going to get married, then she wasn't interested in continuing their relationship. The band was at a sound check, according to Desveaux one day, who told the Albuquerque Tribune that Hampson and his girlfriend got into an argument and she walked to the other side of the room. When Hampson looked up, he saw her talking to someone else and laughing. The frontman soon realized that even though she frustrates him, he still loves it when she smiles, inspiring the lyric in the song.
She looks so sad in photographs. I absolutely love her when she smiles.
Within 15 minutes, he wrote the rough outline of the track. Hampson soon married his girlfriend after they passed through 2 whirlwind years of 9 Days, becoming one of the most popular acts in music. Hampson knew how poppy the song was and insisted that the band learn the musical parts before he would even reveal the lyrics to them. He feared that they would reject the song since it was so clearly a pop jingle, but instead Desveaux loved it immediately, knowing that it was going to be a hit. The song was found on the group's major label debut 2000 2000's The Madding Crowd. The album took its name from the Thomas Hardy book Far From the Madding Crowd, about a series of relationships in Victorian times. The band felt that their songs shared a lot of similarities to the book. Hampson told the Florence Morning News, "I read Far From the Madding Crowd at a time when I was in need of inspiration, and the line 'love is a possible strength and an actual weakness' was the most profound and brilliant line I've ever read." He added, "These songs are about the problems that make the relationships hard to establish and keep alive. We were writing stories about being in the Madding Crowd, not away from it." Absolutely Story of a Girl climbed all the way to number 6 on the Hot 100 chart and was a top 10 hit in New Zealand and Canada.
This is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world. And while she looks
9 Days were among a number of bands at the time who had big success and of course also had numbers in their name. Matchbox 20, Three Doors Down, Blink-182, Third Eye Blind. I'm sure there's some I'm missing as well. Years later, when Hampson had gone back to school at New York's Stony Brook College to earn an English degree, he was surprised to discover that he unknowingly used the formula for how to compose an earworm of a song. In the class Music in the Brain that he took, he discovered that earworms start with a chorus, they have a resolution and attention to them, a start and stop mid-song, and have a slight hiccup before the last chorus. All these components are part of how he wrote Absolutely Story of a Girl.
first mistake, just to put up with this every day and all day. How do we wind up this way?
Despite the band's success, there was a trend in rock music that the band were also a part of. Billboard magazine published a piece in September of 2000 discussing how groups like Vertical Horizon, Collective Soul, and of course 9 Days were part of a modern rock scene that, and I quote, "sees father and son shoulder to shoulder at concerts and bridges a number of radio formats including modern rock and top 40. People are right now obsessed with boy groups and rap metal, but I think the door is cracked a little open for rock and roll. For groups like 9 Days, they fell into the middle of these two extremes, and the sales proved that. By this point in time, Creed had sold nearly 6 million copies of Human Clay, Blink-182 had sold about 3.5 million copies of Enema of the State, and Goo Goo Dolls' Dizzy Up the Girl sold nearly 3.5 million copies, while groups like Vertical Horizon, Three Doors Down, and 9 Days were not too far behind. Billboard even added that these bands didn't need to be cutting edge, and Hampson was interviewed for this piece, to which he responded, "The most common thing I read about us and bands like Matchbox 20 or Vertical Horizon is that we're toothless. I don't know if they're thinking we're trying to be cutting edge and are falling short, but that's never been our ideal. We're just trying to write music that means something to us, and it's obviously connecting with people." Absolutely Story of a Girl helped carry the album The Madding Crowd to gold status. The band was trying to show audiences on tour with Third Eye Blind that they were more than one song. The second single issued was If I Am, with Hampson adding, "I think this will make people realize this is a band."
I am another waste of everything you hope for.
The song seemed once again inspired by Hampson's relationship with his then girlfriend, with him adding, "The song is about patience. It's about two people in a relationship and one person wants all these things like marriage, commitment, the whole 9 yards, and the other person is saying, just have some patience, it'll all come, but I can't do this right now." The second single peaked at number 68 on the Hot 100 chart. The album was also notable because it contained a sample of Bob Dylan from the song It's All Over Now Baby Blue. It was indicated in interviews with 9 Days that this was possibly the first time Bob Dylan had ever allowed his music to be sampled. Desveaux had written a letter to Dylan's label, and the musician gave the group permission to use a sample on his namesake song.
Just like Bob Dylan says, leave your stepping stones behind us.
As 9 Days were readying up their follow-up record, their fifth release, So Happily Unsatisfied, their label collapsed and they lost their contract with Sony. They also lost the ability to control the fate of their music as their album was leaked online. Hampson recalled how the group spent nearly $300,000 on their follow-up record when their manager told them that the album likely wasn't going to come out. He added, "We were oblivious to everything. We spent a stupid amount of money because we could." Then our manager said, "I don't think the album's coming out." I laughed it off. We just had a #1 hit, but that didn't matter. 9 Days returned in 2003 with the independently released Flying the Corporate Jet. While they didn't formally break up, 9 Days went their separate ways after that. For Hampson and his wife, it was a choice to settle down and start a family, and that led to him going back to school. He eventually became an English teacher at a Long Island high school, a job that he still holds to this day. In fact, if you read Reddit, several people talked about taking his classes and how great of a teacher he is. Hampson has also released some solo records in addition to Desveaux. In 2007, Desveaux moved to Nashville to write country music, but not before the band recorded and released an EP titled Slow Motion Life Part 1 the same year. Desveaux and Hampson reconvened in 2013 to begin working on new material for 9 Days in Nashville. This resulted in the release of the EP Slow Motion Life Life Part 2, a more country-influenced record. They released their latest record in 2016 with Snapshots, working with outside songwriters from Nashville. The band had a 20th anniversary tour booked for the Madden crowd in 2020, but as we all know, COVID happened and the tour got scrapped. Nonetheless, the last few years have been pretty interesting. The song Absolutely Story of a Girl has had a kind of rebirth over the past few years, introducing the band to a whole new audience. In 2022, director and screenwriter Dan Kwan coincidentally put 2 lines from the song into the script for the genre-blending Oscar-winning movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Kwan did not realize where the words came from at first, but after Googling the phrase, he got in contact with the band about using the words and the song in the film. What actually wound up happening is that Hampson got hired to record 3 different versions of the song for the movie.
Your clothes never wear as well the next day. Your hair never falls in quite the same way.
Then in 2024, the song got a rework when the state of South Dakota enlisted 9 Days to write a tourism jingle titled Absolutely Story of a State that aired in South Dakota and other target markets during the Super Bowl.
People think South Dakota only has one thing, Rushmore. So we asked one-hit wonder 9 Days why that just ain't true.
This is the story of a state. So much to explore, so much space. You bring home memories and photographs. You'll absolutely love it, and you will smile. What can you do in a year? You wake up the sun and a whole herd of deer. Sit back and relax with a beer.
9 Days has been playing summer tours lately, cashing in on the 90s and early 2000s nostalgia, and they will be getting to do a 25th anniversary tour for the Madden crowd next summer. Some performers may regret being a one-hit wonder, but this is one act that embraces it, allowing them and their fans to revisit the joy of their greatest success a quarter century later. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.